spend an hour with us at 11:30.
Nice.
And we had already scheduled the last part of this 4-part series with you today, so we didn't want to miss that and rearrange things. So we're just going to flow with it and make it all work.
That's how we roll. I love it.
And we are going to record this because we know people are super busy here in Texas. At least we know they're very, very busy, and in our independently owned and operated franchisees in Houston and in the other 17 states we have, they're super busy as well. But I appreciate you coming on, and of course the audience is familiar with you, and this is your second appearance for this 4-part series. But maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me yet once more, Mark, and I hope that there are many more to come. I'm always happy to be of service. My name is Brigitta Hoeferle. I am originally from Germany, moved to the United States in 2004. In one arm, I had our toddler daughter who just graduated from high school past 2 weeks ago. Holy cow, how time flies. And the other arm, I had my husband. No, we did not come as expats. No, we did not come with a company that paid our entire way to leave our hometown, our home country, and build something completely new. It was our idea to build a Montessori school. That's what we did. We own, actually, my husband and I own 3 businesses, 3 educational facilities. One is cultural. We do cultural work, crossing bridges and building bridges and crossing and filling gaps. We have a Montessori school, which is an educational facility for younger people. And then we have the impactful Neuro-Linguistic Programming Institute of Atlanta, which educates adults. So I'm all about impactful language, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today, Mark, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the language of influence, how the words we use influence folks. And now I'm going to make sure I mute everybody, so let me do that as people come in. And then, Brigitta, I will unmute you. So I've got everybody muted. I'll watch that as people come in. We have a very large and new, we have a JPAR franchise in Atlanta. So we'll have to connect you with that amazing group. And, of course, growing all over the country as well.
Right before we went into lockdown, I went to a networking event, and this lady introduced herself, and I looked at her business card, and I saw JPAR on, and I'm like, wait a minute, does JPAR have an office here in Atlanta? And she goes, yes. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we got into a whole conversation, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Growth is fun, and we're growing all over the nation. So, well, with that, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, Kelly, we have a mixed audience here, so we're going to have people from our Texas brokerage, and we're going to have people from our independently owned and operated franchises in Houston and elsewhere across the country. But I'm assuming that they're seeing the same trend that we are. Kelly and I, who's our broker of record, and myself, are seeing a number of what I'm going to call conflicts, more conflicts between our agents, more conflicts between the agents and the consumer. And is there a language pattern? Is there an approach that you teach and coach on how to kind of de-escalate and how to keep the sales process moving forward under stress?
Right. So this is, you're right. The times of uncertainty are very stressful times, and out of stress comes frustration, and then it just creates I call it a downward spiral. So the first step, there's in everything that we do, in our communication, in our everyday work, it shows up in patterns. Mm-hmm. So if we can start seeing and becoming aware of the patterns that we're running, then we're able, if they are supportive patterns, we can actually do more of that. And, coming to the end of Q2, that would be a really good idea to do a business review to look at what has worked specifically in the last, Q1 and then specifically Q2, hard quarter. and I know what I'm talking about as a business owner of 3 businesses myself. It's a tough time, and being in real estate, and I'm not in real estate, you guys are. It's also, from what I've been learning, a seller's market. So at least in Atlanta it has been, and right now we're in Naples, Florida. Yes, that's why I'm so tan. We have the liberty to travel all around. Right now we're traveling by car to keep ourselves safe, but it's a seller's market. And in the business, in any business that we're in, the uncertain times and the times of frustration where we don't know when are we going to be really safe again? When can we really go out and congregate in larger groups again? When can we go back to, or create a new normal? I don't think we'll ever go back to normal, but create a new normal. In times of uncertainty, it is mostly important to become very aware of what our stress patterns are, what our non-supportive patterns are, what our triggers are. So looking back and evaluating specifically Q2, I would encourage everyone to, if you're not journaling, if you're not really looking at what is working and what is not working, to become aware of that and write it out. Now, getting very clear about your strategies and your patterns that you are running. And I mean, first this happens, then you go into this, then you might hear yourself thinking this, and that turns into a feeling, and then that takes an action that will then lead to a result. Now that pattern, what I just said, it starts with an awareness, a thought turns into a feeling turns into an action or a lack of action, and that is then your result. That can go either positive or negative. So you can start with a positive thought into a positive feeling into a positive action that will then lead into a positive result. And that might be a language or a communication pattern that you're using with yourself or with your client. If your client is triggering something within you and you're not aware of it, and that trigger takes you down the negative, that creates a negative thought, turns into a negative feeling, turns into a negative action or a lack of action, and therefore you're not getting the results that you want.
And so, Brigitta, when we journal, when you write these things down, the purpose of that is to help you start to identify those patterns so you can look at them over time.
Correct.
So the journal helps you kind of, when you review that, you can kind of see the patterns and you can say, okay, I see that in myself, and then you can choose to change it.
Correct. Because only if we see it and we're aware of it, we can change it. Or we can do, if it's a good one, we can do more of it, right? Mm-hmm. Often we have success patterns that we run either in business or in our personal life or in working out. If you're aware of that success pattern, you can actually take that pattern, and it starts with a thought, turns into a feeling, and apply that in other areas in your life. It's really that simple, but it's also very complex to become aware of it. And some of you might find that journaling is really woohoo, or, it's really for the weak or the faint of heart. No, it's not. Specifically people, successful people, business people must journal. Yes, I said the word must journal. And there's a specific procedure to the journaling. And that is not just, writing down if you want to stay in your feelings, that's fine. But really becoming aware of and taking inventory of what works. Right. And do more of what works, because only if you are aware, and I can't stress this enough, can you do more of it. And only if you're aware of your triggers, right, and you start working on it.
So help us translate that to how it helps us sell more. How does it help us be more effective in the interactions with people in the selling process?
Right. So I'm going to start with the very simple concept of the value language that you all hopefully are familiar with, the BANK, the blueprint, the action, the nurture, and the knowledge. So if we are all operating in our dominant code, if we want to or not, you are. and you might not be aware of it. That's where that awareness comes in again. So if you are, I'm going to give an example. If you are an action as a dominant code and you are meeting with a client, and that client is, say, a knowledge, what turns an action on turns a knowledge off, and vice versa. So I'm taking the two polars right now. If you are not aware how that knowledge is triggering some things in you, and you are now in a time of uncertainty and of stress, we're all very short-lived right now. Like our patience, and I can only speak out of my own experience, patience is not really there right now. It's because we've all had it. Like, let's just move on, right? That's literally why I'm here in Florida right now, because I had to leave the house. I said, I got to get out of here. Right. So being aware of what happens when you are speaking to that knowledge client, and what are some of the triggers? Does that person ask you another question? You're like, are you kidding me? Does that client or that prospect really need to ask yet another question? Did I not answer that already? Mm-hmm. With that, you're not going to make a sale. I mean, it's that simple. So you got to be taking inventory of your patience level, taking inventory of your growth in knowing who your client is. And quite frankly, if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, then I think, Mark, us and the group need to do another BA&K kind of webinar and workshop where I will go through that, because you need to really use those tools so you are aware, so you can close that deal. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because that's when deals are broken. Deals are broken when you cannot build rapport, when you don't have patience and you're not aware and familiar with your trigger points. You cannot build rapport, and when there's no rapport, there's no sale signature on the paper. Right. It's really that simple.
Okay, so that's how we connect the dots to sales. It's all about back to building rapport.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's simple and complex all at the same time. When you have enough flexibility and choice in your communication, and you have enough understanding of how to communicate with the other person, not communicating in your own style, but communicating in their style, that's when the magic happens.
Got it. So, a lot of us on the line here have probably taken our code. We've cracked our code at jparcode.com. We know we're a predominant N or an A. I was just looking, about 70% of us, of the audience we're talking about probably here, are A's or N's.
Which I'm not surprised.
Yeah, because it's a sales organization. So
correct.
While we do have some B's and K's, they're not as predominant here, but there are some. So 30% of them are that code. So maybe they have a cursory understanding of this. How can they go deeper? How can they understand? Like, I know we have access to the vault, but I don't know if anybody knows what's in the vault or how to use it.
Yeah, there's actually, if you go to JPAR Vault, in the vault there's hours and hours and hours of learning. First of all, getting understanding what is a blueprint, what does a blueprint value, and how do you communicate with the blueprint. Then there's the action. What is an action value, and how do they communicate, and how do you communicate with an action? Then there's the nurture. What is the nurture value? How can you sense a nurture, and how do you communicate with the nurturer? And then there's the knowledge. What is the knowledge value? What is the communication with the knowledge look like? So we are all, each and every one of us is all 4 codes, but we are in a different configuration. And your client, your prospect, is all 4 codes, different configuration. And if you are not aware what your prospect is, then it takes you longer, much longer, to figure out what do they value, in which dominant code are they communicating, and then your learning curve is going to be higher to understand and speak back. First of all, listen to their coded language and then speak it back. That's where the magic happens, where you listen for it, where you know what to listen for, and then speaking back. So in the vault, you have hours and hours and hours of valuable information. And there's one series that we did specifically for JPAR for real estate, which is Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge, with great tips for real estate. Each segment is about, I want to say, a half an hour long.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll
and
look those up and see if I can find the link. So those are recorded, and we posted those in Boss. I don't have that link handy, but we can find it.
Yeah, very valuable. And I love to go back, and my mom's in real estate, and I have given it to my mother. So it's beautiful information, and if you're not making use of it, then I would say you might want to overthink that and really learn it and apply it, because it makes your life easier. This is not just another thing. It makes your life easier. It makes your selling process much easier. If you look,
doesn't it make your selling process just more natural, in a sense?
It makes it more natural. It makes it quicker.
Yeah.
See, if you can close more sales in less time, you can spend more time at the beach if you like the beach, or the pool, or bike riding, or whatever you like.
Whatever you want to spend time on. And I wish Megan Pelly was on. I don't know if I see her on Facebook or here, but Megan, as many of you know, is going to close probably herself 85 transactions this year with an assistant and a TC. And she shares a story where she got fired by a client because Megan is a high A and the client was a B, and she was speaking her A language to the B and didn't convert. And she was self-aware enough to say, hey, I need to fix this. So she got into the vault and turned it around, and she's going to have a record year this year, even with COVID.
That's amazing.
So Brigitta, how do we break this down? If I was I see some newer agents, newer to the industry. I see some very experienced agents. So regardless of their experience in the industry, how would we break this down to a practical step that they can take? First, they got to crack their code, right, at jparcode.com, right? Crack your code first.
They crack their code, then they get a report. And then from that report, they actually, you get a report to Mark. So when you have cracked your own code with JPAR, which each and every one of you should have done, then you can also get your own bank pass. It's called the bank pass, crackmycode.com, where anytime that you meet with someone new or even existing or team members, have them crack their code. Like I go in and I crack entire teams' codes, so we know who is communicating in which dominant code, and we can communicate better and we can build rapport better. So once you have your own bank pass, you send it to your prospect before you meet, and then when you meet, you don't have to figure out what that person's code is, so you can speak in their language. You already know it. It's like you already have, you can already see into the future and prepare yourself adequately and not have to get on a phone call and ooh and ah and figure out how to build rapport with that person. All of that takes time. And if we can cut that time out with a bank pass, that's huge. Go into the vault, learn what to listen for. So now those, as you said earlier, Mark, now those conversations become very natural because you are knowing what you're listening. You know what you're listening for, and you can actually speak it back. Because it's exactly this. I'm going to give you an example. Wenn ich jetzt mit euch Deutsch weiterrede, dann versteht ihr kein Wort, was ich überhaupt zu euch sage. It's the exact same thing. And that's often how your clients feel. They're like, okay, I hear you, but I don't understand you.
Right. Can I tell you a story real quick?
Yeah.
So I can't wait for you to meet my oldest son, Stephen, who's fluent. So he lives in San Francisco, and I was visiting his apartment recently, and I needed to use his computer. Well, it's all in German. It's how he keeps up with it because he doesn't speak it every day, but he types it and uses it on his computer. So I'm trying to type this, and everything's in German. I'm like, he's speaking the wrong code. Anyway, if you know your bank code, I'd love you to type it into the chat bar. Let's go down to a practical example. I am a high N and a high A. But my N's a little higher than my A. If you knew that about me, how might you approach me differently if I was a B or a K?
Yeah. So if I know that you are an N first, I would not lead with the money. The N is all about the community. So if I'm selling you a house, Mark, and you're an NABK, Okay, you're K last, you're knowledge last, and you're an N first. I'm going to speak to the community, and perhaps there's some volunteer opportunities that you can plug in. Perhaps I want to find out if you're involved in any, dog charity or church or anything else, because that's what the nurture really cares about. They're all about the big picture, the harmony, the community, the giving back. But then knowing that your A is second and that your A is, only a few points apart, I then also want to speak about the money. And, what is it that you desire? Do you want to be in a specific neighborhood? Do you want your house to have a pool or a specific look to it? Do you want to be amongst, the high rollers in the community? Perhaps you want to be, as an NA, you want to be among the high rollers in the nonprofit arena in that community. Could very well be, right? Oh. Knowing that your K is last, and I'm just making this up right now, knowing that your K is last, I'm not going to bore you with information and data. The Ks, right. If you were, go ahead.
Let me interrupt for a minute because my K is last, but okay. Anthony, who just posted in, is an N first, but his K is second.
Okay.
So how might you approach him differently, Anthony, than you might me, where my A is second?
Perfect. So I would, for knowing that Mark's code K is last, I'm just going to not go there. Now, Anthony and K, I'm going to talk all about the community and the giving back and all of that, and really listen to what he, where his heart is, right? Because N's can be very in their feelings and where their heart is. But then I also want to give him all the information, where all the charities are, where all the facts and the data is around the community, everything that where Anthony can do his research. So I am not going to talk about the money. I'm going to talk about where he can do more research, where he can find, all of the information, the courthouse records, and everything that you need to know about this house and about the community. I'm going to email him, and on top of that, I'm also going to give him the printout. I'm going to give him and over deliver on information and data, because that's what Ks really want. Yeah. The hardest code to sell to is a knowledge. And I've been married to a knowledge for 20 years. So my husband is a KA, I'm an AB. So selling to a knowledge is going to be the hardest task and the longest task, because they have questions, and then they have more questions, and when you think there's no more questions to ask, they have even more questions. And then they're going to go back and they're going to reread all of the fine print. They're the ones at closing that are going to go through all of the 100 pages, and they're going to read every single word, and you're about to poke your eyes out. That's what agents do.
Anybody have one of those? And Anthony says you were right on the money with him. Now, Brigitta, we have two. Both Andy and Jason are AN. So how might that approach be a little different with the AN?
So let me give you some facts really quick. Action and nurtures are emotional codes. That code, those two codes, live in the right hemisphere of the brain. Blueprints and knowledge are very unemotional, non-emotional codes, and they're more in the left hemisphere of the brain. So AN is an incredibly wonderful code, just like NA, and I can only come out of my experience. The A, you want to hit on the money, the quick. You don't want to bore them to death with information. You just want to give them the bottom line. Here's what we're going to do, and we're going to keep it in a very ethical and an integrity. But you want to speak to the quick, the fun, we're going to make this process as easy for you as possible. The knowledge and the blueprint don't care about if it's easy. They want you to be very thorough and specific. They don't care about easy and fun. They want it to be very specific and thorough. The actions are like, do not bore me with all of these 100 pages and the closing. Are you kidding me? Where do I sign? And let's move on. Because actions have places to be and people to see and things to do.
The action's not even going to read the paper, right? They're just going to
no.
Now, here's the point I want to get across, because we just did a couple of examples, And if I'm only speaking my language, I'm not going to appeal to 75% of the population, right?
You're not appealing to 75% of the population or the person that you're talking to. And at the same time, you're spoon feeding the people that you're not speaking to. You're spoon feeding them to your competition. That's a major ouch.
Yeah, because they're going to go somewhere else. So just by mastering these techniques at even a cursory level, I could appeal to more people and increase my sales.
Absolutely. Poor behavior is a lack of communication. So a lack of communication is you only speaking in your dominant code, because you're only speaking 25% of the language.
So say that again. Poor
behavior is a lack of quality communication.
Poor behavior is a lack of quality communication because you're ignoring the other person's. You're tone deaf. You're tone deaf to what's going on around you.
Correct.
Got it.
And behavior is something that you want someone to do. And someone will not sign the papers or look at a house with you or return your calls if you don't have rapport with them. And you cannot build rapport with them if you do not have choice and flexibility in communication. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, that breaks it down pretty simply right there. Now, I hope the audience is getting some great value from this. I'd love some questions from anybody. I see Diana's on, and Greg, Dave, Buddy. Buddy just joined us recently, and I know Buddy has a great growing business. Of course, Anthony, we've already pointed out, but if you have questions either here or on the Facebook, let me go over to Facebook and look and see if anybody's jumped on there for questions.
And while you're doing that, I also want to point out that with the Bank Pass, you also have access to the artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. And the beauty about the artificial intelligence is that you can take like a LinkedIn profile, the about page of a LinkedIn profile of a prospect, copy it, put it in the artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence immediately tells you this is your prospect's code.
Right.
Now, when you're sending them, say, a LinkedIn message or an email that you received, and you copy and paste the email into the artificial intelligence, which is very easy and simple to do, then you don't have to figure out what their code is. The artificial intelligence will tell you, and then you write an email back or a LinkedIn message or a Facebook message or a text message, if you will. And the system, the artificial intelligence, when you write it in that little window, will tell you, you're writing in the wrong code. Therefore, you're not going to build rapport because, right, in email, in text messages, in Facebook messages, in LinkedIn messages, people do not hear you and they do not see you. They only read your words. They don't hear tonality. They don't see body language. They're only reading your words. And if you miss your per-Moravian communication model, communication is only 7% in words. 55% is body language and 38% is tonality. You're missing tonality, 38%. You're missing body language, 55%. You're only relying on the words. You better get your words right.
Got it. Now, even though jparcode.com is free to them as being part of JPAR, the Vault does have some incremental fees, and they can pick from whatever investment they may want to make. If they choose that investment, though, they get access to the Vault, and that's a curriculum, and they get access to the AI. But let's come back, because you mentioned something that I think is so important. And that's why we like Zoom so much, because if this was just an audio call, you would get the verbal and the audio, but here we get the body language and the tonality and the words. So help us as sales professionals. How important is our tone? Should we be changing our tone and our body language with people as we build rapport? Give us some coaching on that.
Absolutely. Just like your words make an impact that you're adapting towards the code of the person that you're speaking to, your tonality makes an impact too, and your body language does too. Let me give you an example. Say you're an action, I'm an action, and I am, I'm loud, I'm out there, I'm animated, and I'm talking to, say, a blueprint who is very put together, very professional, not necessarily, loud and in your face, I must bring myself down. My tonality is going to come down. I'm going to slow my pace, and I might as well put on not my jean jacket, but an actual suit when I meet with them or I'm on a Zoom call with them. I always have my pearls. They're always part of my professional outfit, right? But you wanna come down, or you want to come over to wherever they are at. So if you're meeting with a blueprint, you better be very professional. Mm-hmm. If you're meeting with a nurturer and you're very stern in your tonality and the way that you communicate, you're probably not going to build rapport, because that nurturer is going to crawl back in their little shell and hide and cry for the rest of the day. So your tonality and your body language makes a big, big impact. And, in the Institute, in one of the courses that I teach is one of the laws is you cannot not communicate. Even if I don't say anything, I am still communicating.
Mm-hmm. Just in your facial expressions, you're communicating something. Yeah. Now, Jason, I'd like to take a little bit of this and then pass it over to you. Jason asked an amazing question. He gets the prize of the day. How do you figure, out right away when you meet somebody? So Jason, let me give you a couple things, and then Brigitta could jump in. First, if you don't think your customers are Googling you before they meet you on a listing appointment, they're looking at your Facebook page, they're looking at your LinkedIn, they're looking at your Twitter, they're looking you up. So you should be doing the same. And Brigitta taught me, I went to one of her certification classes, and I actually did speed coding, which I passed. I have a certificate. So I can go to someone's Facebook page and their LinkedIn page, and pretty much in a couple of minutes predict what their code's going to be. For instance, maybe you go to you wouldn't see this on my Facebook page, but if you come to my Facebook page and you saw a picture of me standing in front of a Ferrari with my Rolex watch on, what might that tell you? Right, Jason? I don't know if that jumps out at you. That's probably an A. If you go to my Facebook page, you're going to see me in front of the food bank helping. Matter of fact, there's a picture of me at the food bank rolling the forklift to put the food up on the rack, right? And so that speaks to my N. Or you might see someone post a research paper, right? So you can kind of tell by doing your research a little bit ahead of time. Rita, you want to jump in on how did I do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's completely correct. And speed coding is so much fun. So I had a coaching call with one of my clients, and she was preparing to meet with a prospect, and there's a big deal on the line. And she says, what is this person's code? And I said, well, did you look at his LinkedIn? She says, yeah, I'm just not certain. I'm not seeing anything. And I said, well, let's take a look together. This guy has been at the same university, working at the same university for 35 years. I said, okay, we can rule out action, because no action is going to stay anywhere longer than 8 years.
Right.
Maximum, right? Not a nurturer. Definitely could be nurturer second from some of the other things that we found on his Facebook page, doing a lot of things with family. It was him and his dad, who's really up there in age, riding a bike. It was just really sweet. But turns out that he is a very, very blueprint, very credible person. And I said, will you report back to me once you've talked to that person? And sure enough, was a total blueprint nurturer, right?
Yeah.
So it helps so greatly. And it takes out all the guesswork. And now with the AI, it takes the guesswork out even more.
Yeah. And then also, Jason, there's just a script that says, Jason, I'd love to serve you at the highest level. And to make sure I can do that quickly and efficiently and give you all the knowledge you need, would be kind of fun to take this test, but not the test, but this fun little thing. And of course, we're not in person where we can hand them the cards and have them shuffle it. But when we were, that was kind of fun and people enjoyed it. But you can send them to jparcode.com and have them take the code, and some people have fun with that.
I have, that is part of my intake process. So when I have an intake process with one of my prospects, I always ask them, hey, will you go here real quick, take this assessment, crack your code. It'll give me a better understanding of what you value most. And I want to serve you to the best of knowledge that I possibly can. Who doesn't want that?
Right.
Right? It's just how you ask for it.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly how you ask for it. And then it's kind of a conversation starter and kind of a fun rapport builder, because it takes a little bit of the conversation off necessarily business. And so it's kind of fun.
Yes, Mark, I love what you just said, because you're giving people an opportunity to talk about whom?
Themselves.
And that's their favorite topic.
Yeah. What is that? What is that radio station, WIIFM?
Yeah, what's in it for me?
Yeah, everyone, So, Jason, that was worth the star of the day. I'm going to send you one of my books, One Hell of a Move. I'll sign it for you. I'll have to get your address later.
Yeah, love it.
What other questions do we have from the group? I know that was a great one right there. And many of you, even though you haven't done the speed coding class, can start to practice your skills by doing your research and just looking at their page.
The speed coding online program is actually in the vault, so you can go through the speed coding as well. Everything is right there.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about how the vault is organized, and what is it, a sequential curriculum? Am I going to go from lesson 1 to lesson 2, or can I kind of jump around? And
you can jump around. You can, if you want to be very sufficient and go right to the real estate program, you can go all the way down in the vault and take the entire Blueprint Action Nurture Knowledge Real Estate program. I really encourage all of you to do that, all of y'all. But you do start, the program starts, or the vault starts, with the introduction to bank. So it gives you a high level overview of what BANK is. Then we go into the bank fundamentals. That is the fundamental information of blueprint values, action values, nurture values, knowledge values. Then we go into the speed coding. So it takes you step by step through, and it's built on a program that's called Lightspeed VT. And Lightspeed VT adapts to your learning behavior. So it learns with you of what you already know, because there's little assessments at the end of each segment, and they're like bite-sized segments. So you don't have to carve out days and days and days of learning. You can chunk it down and do like a half an hour every day, which you should do some reading every day anyway, some journaling, and some learning throughout the day as a professional. So then you go through the speed coding. After the speed coding, you go through the power scripting. Power scripting is very in-depth, and it allows you, or it gives you the power of a gift of gap. Mm-hmm. So you're able to write in, I call it a rainbow. You're able to write in blueprint, action, nurturing, and knowledge, and kind of weaves in. And when you write like that, you write it for your website copy or for an email campaign that goes out to everyone.
Can I give an example?
Sure.
So I used power scripting this morning at JPAR Nation. For those of you in Collin-Denton County, we're looking to grow in Collin-Denton. We're looking to grow everywhere, but specifically right now we have a push in Collin-Denton County, and some of our recruiting team reached out to me and said, hey, Mark, here's 15 people we'd like you to reach out to. And most of the 15 I didn't know. So I went to my speed, power scripting, and created a quick email script that would appeal to all 4 codes. And I've already got 5 responses back.
Perfect. Because
now they're not all positive responses, but at least I got something back.
Well, and if you would have only written in your code,
mm-hmm.
then it probably would have not landed with that many people.
Yeah.
That's the key. So power scripting, and then there's there's another program in there called the Millionaire Map, which is it's a very strategic and also fun 12-segment program to take yourself through. It's a business development program, the Millionaire Map, and then there's the real estate session as well.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have Risa look up. I know you did a 3 or 4 session.
I did.
training with us. We recorded those. We have them in Boss. I can't find them off the tip of my fingers, but I'm going to have Riza look those up. And anybody who's registered for this, Riza will send you those links, and you can go back and look at those trainings. They're pretty powerful as well. Great. All right. So my good friend Jason lives up in Melissa, where my best friend Scott Parkless lives in Anna. They just built a brand new Buc-ee's up there. Brigitta, you haven't had the honor of going to Buc-ee's.
I have no idea what that is.
It is they're not truck stops, but you would think it's a truck stop. It's a truck stop for consumers. They have the cleanest bathrooms, is their motto. You know, it's the cleanest bathrooms you can find on your road trips. And they're pretty cool little places. It's like a Texas phenomenon. They're amazing store.
Buc-ee's. I need to come to Texas and experience it.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of Buc-ee's.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks.
So where Jason lives, they just built a brand new one. It's only been open a couple months. So he says, yeah, I go to Buc-ee's all the time. It is, and it's an experience. It truly is. It kind of it's a Texas experience. You haven't been to Texas unless you go to Buc-ee's. All right. Well, so what other questions do we have from the JPAR Nation about the language of influence? The words you use matter, right? The words we use matter. The tone we use matters. Our body language matters. I mean, I could change my tone and be really soft. I could be really loud. I could be really stern, right? All of these things.
It could be very knowledgeable.
Oh yes, I can be very knowledgeable. You know, the research shows.
Exactly. And look, what Mark just did, that those are already hints. If you already, calibrate, in our institute, we use the term calibration. When you calibrate towards that kind of behavior and body language, that's already a clue. All you need are some clues, and then ask more qualifying questions, and that will get you to, know what the person really values.
Yeah.
Because often enough in our language, in our building rapport, we don't really care about what the other person values, and that should be different. We should be very interested in what the other person values. That's how you build true rapport. One language pattern.
One of the things I think about, and then we have a question, is I always just remember it's not about me. It's not
never.
about me. So Kim is asking, do we have to create an account to go through the virtual training? Yes and no. So let me give you the yes. So as you know, at JPAR, I want to provide you as much resources and everything I can for free as part of your membership and as part of your CAP. We do that through the JPAR code. So you can crack as many codes as you want. Go to my channel at jparcode.com and crack all day long. Now, unfortunately, the vault has some expense to it, and it's just something that we need to pass on to the associates. So that does come with a fee. Now, Brigitta has been so kind to do a couple of trainings for us, and I will be sending those to you. If you're registered or in attendance here, you'll get those 4 trainings that she did for us, and there's no cost of those. And Riza will send those links out. But if you want to get the AI and you want to get access to that vault like Megan does, and Megan invests in it every month, as experienced as she is, she still invests in the vault every month and uses the training. So that does come with a cost.
I find that the more successful people are, the more they see the how necessary it is to invest in oneself, in the continuous learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that just breeds more success.
And, as experienced as I am and as you are, I still go back and watch. I use it more now as an encyclopedia. When I first started, I used it as the curriculum, right? Okay, I want to go through it. Now I'm looking at, okay, I need to refine here. I need to hone that. And now I can use it more as a encyclopedia. Can I show one thing real quick? I just created, you're going to love this while I'm looking for this. I interrupted you while I'm looking for this. You can finish your thought there while I interrupted you. I apologize.
Yeah, one language pattern, when you asked earlier, or when we set the stage for our call today, being in a time of stress and being in time of frustration, looking at what has worked and what has not worked, I want to give you a really good language pattern that will take you from where you are, taking inventory, end of Q2, take you from where you are in the present moment, looking back at Q1 and Q2, what has worked, what has not worked. Maybe you want to do like a little pro and con sheet, which I really encourage you to do. Here's the language pattern that I want to gift you, and that is, up until now, I have, and those are the things that might have not worked in Q1 and Q2. Mm-hmm. Up until now, I have, and then fill in whatever you have done that has not worked for you, or that has held you back, or that has limited you. From here on forward, I am, and then you fill in what are you going to do different from here on forward. So it's breaking the state right now where you're at. And you are starting to become very intentional what you're going to do from here on forward in Q3 and Q4. But in order to do that, in order to sound that out, what you're going to do, you must be aware of what has not worked before.
So walk us through that pattern again. That was a powerful exercise. What were the questions again?
So you would write down the pros and cons of Q1 and Q2, what has worked, what has not worked. You take what has not worked and you tell yourself, or maybe they're just negative, stinking thinking, negative thought patterns that you might become aware of. And then you say, up until now, I have told myself I can't do this, as an example. Or up until now, I have, whatever it is that you have done. I slept until 12 o'clock and it has not served me. From here on forward, I am going to, and then you fill in what you're going to do from here on forward. So up until now leaves everything that has not served you in the past. You're breaking that state right now. From here on forward, I am, and then you fill in what you're going to do from here on forward.
Now, I love your language. I put something up on the screen, the psychology, mindset, attitude, actions, results loop, right? So your language was beautiful where, okay, I slept until noon and I could choose the language, well, I'm an idiot, I'm lazy. What you said was, I slept until noon and that didn't serve me to achieve my goals. That's different than telling myself I'm lazy or an idiot, right?
Yeah, because that's a judgment.
It's a judgment. And if I make that judgment, it's going to affect my attitude. And if that attitude is going to affect my actions, and that's going to affect my results, right? So it's this loop.
Love it. Look how we're in sync, Mark.
Are we in sync?
I love it. Yeah.
Wasn't that a band? I wonder if we can get royalties from NSYNC. But the other thing, what I also wanted to share was this. We were talking about the vault. And even though I've gone through the curriculum, the first time you go through it, look at the forgetting curve. What this is, many of you right now, if this is the first time you've heard Brigitta and I talk, you're going to forget within 4 weeks 100% of what we talked about today. And you do the first repetition, you do more, second, third. Look at that. It takes the fourth repetition to start to have a command of any of this stuff. So if you're just doing it once or twice, you're not going to have command of it.
I love this. I teach a little, imagine a little number lock, like a little, what do you call those? That you have on the locks. And
like the combo lock. Uh-huh.
The combo lock, yeah. It's the combination is 24, 7, 10. So within 24 hours that you have learned something new for 7 days, you want to spend 10 minutes every day and review what you have learned. And it's going to increase your retention to 80%.
Yeah, wow.
24/7/10.
24/7/10. Unlock the secrets of influence. Well, with that, as we start to wrap up this session, are there any other questions from the JPAR Nation? Anything that, since we have the expert, probably one of the world's leading expert on the language of influence, in our midst right here, it's a gift to each of us today. So any questions? If not, give us one thing that was most impactful for you today. If you could share in the chat bar one thing that maybe stood out for you, or one thing that was resonated with you, or one thing you're committed to. Give that gift of sharing that with Brigitta and I, so we can, one, help support you in that, and give us some feedback as well. Give that to us in the chat bar. Either something that stood out for you, something that was helpful, one thing that you're committed to, or simply, so Paul stood out, the 24/7/10 really stood out for him. Yeah. Communicating with clients, speaking their language, and knowing how to get their code for Kim was super important. It's so powerful because, we all want to make a difference, right? We want to make a difference. We want to feed our families. We want to build our businesses. Jason liked the talk we did about speed coding. Yeah, practice it, Jason. Go into LinkedIn, look me up on Facebook, look Brigitta up on Facebook, look at some of your friends, family, and relatives on Facebook, and start to see if you can predict, based on just what they post on either LinkedIn or Facebook, what their code is. It gets kind of fun. It's kind of a fun little thing. Anthony took away identifying the clients before they meet with them, going into either Facebook or LinkedIn or some social and looking ahead, because they're doing it on you.
For sure.
Yeah, they're doing it for you. Let's see. And what else? Manny said, awesome training. Thank you so much. Learning more about speed coding through social media was great. All right. Well, with that, I think we added some value today. Give Brigitta, give her a scale of 1 to 10. How did we do today? 1, we didn't provide any value. 10, we were off the charts for you. Give us a 10. Look at that.
Wow.
There you go. Off the charts, 10 plus. Well, with that, to the JPAR Nation, I am so thankful for you, Brigitta, for pouring into us. We'll have you back. This ends our 4-part series, and we'll create something new to keep the fires burning as we head into the back half of the year. Remember, it doesn't matter how we started. It only manages how we finish. So until we talk again, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. Take care. Brigitta, thank you.
Guys. Bye.
Bye.